many of us have an internal sort of stigma that, that does often on some subconscious level prevent us from fully owning our own lives. Like we always sort of, drag queens have been kind of always told they're sort of second-class citizens on some level, and so there's a lot of worry that you can't actually do without someone else. And so to really seize control of the full package of, these grand tours without having to rely on someone who is outside of the queer community, I think it's hugely important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's not an exaggeration, drag queens being conditioned to believe that they are less than. In the queer community, before Drag Race was popular, there was a huge stigma. And then even, especially in entertainment, I feel like, so the drag queens that are making it big these days, we are comedians, we are singers, we are dancers, models, fashion experts, actors who chose to do it in drag. Mm-hmm. We are the performers that we are first, and we chose drag for whatever our personal reasons are as the way we were going to do that. But I feel like there's still so much qualifying around it. Like, she's a drag queen singer. She's a drag queen actor. And it's like, you can just call me an actor,
No, it's very true.
I'm acting every time I step out of the house dressed like this MILF character I've created, And there was just, in the entertainment business, I feel like being a drag queen, you're just a novelty act, and we are tearing that down brick by brick these days. Mm-hmm. But it's a big wall to tear down. Tear down that wall. But I crawled through the mud. I did the whole slog of working in bars and nightclubs for years, where the bar would be successful because of its drag night, and the bar would be making a shit ton of money, and the drag queens would be being paid $1.25 per song they performed. Yeah. Like, that was what you got paid, and then your tips. And so we weren't doing it because it was lucrative. We were doing it because we had no other choice. This was something that lived inside of us, and to not let it out would be a sin.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be remiss. You did talk about the popularity of Drag Race. Most of your fans know you because of your incorporation in the Drag Race universe. I'm curious because I walked in, and it's kind of surreal because I was watching your all season, respectively, on Hulu yesterday. Have either of you gone back to look at your seasons? And is there something from that, and specifically season 6, BenDeLa, but is there something when you look back at those seasons that you either regret or you wish was viewed differently by the fans who are now getting reintroduced to y'all in this particular fashion?
Oh, I mean, constant. I can't watch my season for lots of reasons. There's little things here and there that I regret. Because I was 24 and I'm 32 now, and the conversations we're having as a community and the conversations we're having as a society have changed so much in that time that, not that I'm ashamed or not that I, am not grateful for the experience that I had. There's just these little things I wish I could have said differently. There's little things I wish I could have done differently. But ultimately, I wouldn't change it. I just can't watch it because it makes me want to reach into the screen and shake myself around. But but I was just telling my friend the other day, my roommate Alec, I was just telling him, I said, I wear my narcolepsy as a badge of pride. What the fuck does that mean? Like, I wish I could just snip that out, like, as a badge of pride. And I still to this day don't know what I was thinking in that moment. Yeah. I get the sentiment, but I'm like, that's how you wanted to say that, 24-year-old Jinkx?
But she got that check, though.
Yeah, I don't know. There's certainly moments on especially season 6 that I sort of look at and have the same sort of cringe reaction. But, I think it's sort of an unreasonable thing to look back and be like, wow, I wish I'd been more hypervigilant every second of my life for 1 month. It's like if any given person were, if you could have your worst moment of the day distilled on camera and exist on, whatever streaming network forever, then we would all live in constant regret if we were to beat ourselves up about
That's
that.
true.
So I mean, for the most part, I am so happy with what I was able to show and accomplish on those seasons. I certainly learned some things, especially on season 6, about myself, sort of what, I can appear as in not the best light, I certainly learned more about my egomania, which I've just learned to embrace. But
You have to at some point.
but certainly watching. Yeah, I don't know. I have more
upset
empathy
with-
than regret for
So
that past
in
self.
All Stars season 3, you famously removed yourself from the competition.
Yes.
Are you upset with how people have painted that narrative for you about how that all went down?
I mean, not to go too far into it, but on the show, I do feel like there was they chose what to show on other people saying about that in a very specific way that I think attempted to spin it in a direction or at least make it ambiguous. But for the most part, I would say that audiences were so insanely supportive. I mean, the way that people reached out to me about that, I mean, some of those some of the messages that I received around how that made people feel or what it made them think about. And I had a few people reach out to me and be like, I ended an unhealthy relationship because of, this statement about just really making the right decision for you and doing what you view as your own version of success. I quit a job I felt like I needed to have but was unhappy in, and for there to be that type of response to that, I mean, I kind of hoped it would maybe connect in that way. At the time, I was just doing what felt right to me, but that was an incredible experience to have. I certainly do think that there's some people who had a more pat narrative that oh, you're quote unquote quitting, or and to me, that's more of, that just feeds into a frustration I have in general about the culture not being willing to have more complex thought. It's very black and white thinking.
There's a lot of nuances to the decisions we make, which I'm curious, would there ever be anything to cause either of you to leave drag altogether?
I don't even feel like I mean, I've been doing drag in some form since I was a child. I feel like it's so ingrained in who I am. I mean, I think that, at some point I might stop being a performer at the level I am now, because eventually my hips will probably give out. But
Gaga had a replacement. You can have one too.
But I think, I'll always, at the very least, want to write and produce. I mean, part of the reason I love being a producer and a writer is, even if eventually I'm not that person on stage, it still connects me to this tradition of drag and drag theater and camp.
Yeah, I have visions of myself doing drag till the day I die. I have visions of what I'm going
on
to...
stage in the middle of a show.
In front of everybody. Where the tips at, though?
If I get my way, I will be performing into my 80s or 90s. I will do a show, and it will be the best show of that run, and then I will step off stage and die. That's how I see myself going. I want my last thing to do that I did in life was a show, because I feel like I'm the most fully realized version of myself when I'm on stage in drag. And I don't know why that is. I'm sure there's some psychological reason, but I won't question it. But I do envision myself, like, what will I look like in my 80s still doing drag? And
I can't wait to be withered in a wig.
Yeah.
I love that
amazing.
Oh my God, just all the turquoise jewelry on every finger and kimonos, and well, that's appropriative, but you know what I mean.